Hello everyone, my name is Lyuba. I'm Sophia's sister. I'm 17 and I live in Moscow, Russia. I lived in Canada for 6 years, and I'm basically just a normal teenager. I can't really say anything else about myself. I'll just head straight to the questions. Give the definition of the following terms. Order. To me, order is obviously the opposite of chaos. Too much chaos brings chaos, and too much order brings tyranny of sorts. Chaos and order are like two elements that exist in the world, and if there is a disbalance, then the world is a bit more imperfect. Freedom. I believe there are different types of freedom. I do not believe that a human being or any live creature can experience absolute freedom, but there's always, we can feel the feeling of freedom in our everyday lives. For example, when we have enough resources, like time or money or anything else, to get or achieve what we need. In that case, we are sort of free. God. Since I'm a religious person, there is basically only one way I can tell you what God is. God is the creature that created this universe, and he's the one that controls it, and thanks to God, the whole universe, even it's perfectly imperfect, and I can't really imagine the universe to be any other way. Even with its problems, it's still beautifully complicated. Human being. Well, a human being is a very interesting creature. If you put a human being outside of society, it's basically useless and really... A human being outside of society, yeah, it's useless, and if you put a human in a forest without anything, he'll die in like a day, 2, 3, maybe a week, month. He won't live as long. But if you put a human being into society, he can change lives. It depends on the human being, obviously, but it's really interesting how society changes a person, and that's why a human being can't exist without it. Morality. To me, morality is a group of rules that makes human beings less animal-like. Without morality, we would be more violent, more like animals, basically. It helps the person find himself in just the world, to define what is good, what is bad, even though I believe in some scenarios you can't tell if something is good or bad. A lot of the time, people try to define something as black or white, good or bad, but sometimes it's a lot more complicated than that. You can't just say if someone's a good person, a bad person. It really depends. Betrayal. Betrayal is a sort of manipulation. It's when a person has a position in which he is trusted and he uses that position against the other person. Work. Work is, a tool that a person can use to achieve basically whatever he needs. If you add love to work, if a person truly loves his job, And if you add motivation, it's basically one of the most powerful things you can get. If a person has enough motivation, enough love, and ability to work, basically he can do anything. Boring person. To me personally, a boring person is someone who doesn't do anything with his life. It's just a to me personally, I realize that a boring person is different to everyone, but sometimes I meet people along the way that you can see life handing them possibilities. You could see that they've got potential to do something, but they don't do anything. And to me, that's the definition of a boring person. Next, we have describe any event you remembered well, a trip, vacation, concert, meeting with friends. Well, I have a memory that is connected to my childhood. Back in Canada, we went to an apple farm, and I was about 8 or 7, and this memory is so pure and wholesome, and it just associates with childhood, with being free, with being just happy with anything life gives you. We went to an apple farm, and it was autumn, and the air was filled with the scent of apples, fresh apples. There was a cornfield and sorts of activities for kids, and there was just a big field where you could roam and run and do whatever you want. And it was just, this memory just, it has nothing bad. It's just purely good. It's just what being a child like is. You're just happy with what you get, and life is kind of just good. There. What events of the modern world disturb you most? Why? What do you think has to be done to fix the situation? Well, I think that people's desire to post everything to social media. I know I sound like a 50-year-old grandma, but I feel like it's really unnatural. Lots of the time you look different in photos, you can say whatever you want, you can write whatever you want to anyone, and in real life is a lot more complicated, and you have to process other people's emotions, you have to think about what you say, even though some people don't do that. And social media it just puts a filter that changes everything absolutely. And people can be just different, very different. They can be anyone, basically. And I don't know, I just like how the world is as it is, just naturally. So, yeah, I don't like people being too involved in social media. I don't think there's anything to be done to fix the situation, because everyone that posts anything that's just generally, you can't stop people from using social media, and it's just a choice each person has to make. There are definitely benefits to social media, it's just I don't like when people are obsessed with it. What values do you think should be promoted in society? First of all, I don't know if this could be called a value, but I think that people should understand and should be taught since they were little kids that everyone is different and everyone has different values, views, and there are some situations in which no one person is right, because I know that lots of people sometimes think that they fight over tastes, over values, but there isn't one answer. It's not as easy. And I think that it could save a lot of time for people if they just understood it fully and just respected each other and did what they need to do. Also, I think it's important for people to strive to be the best versions of themselves, to constantly work on each other, on themselves generally. Not constantly, and not being harsh on yourself, but just at least thinking about what you do wrong and how you could change yourself. Lastly, I think sometimes you meet people that you can tell they were traumatized by something or something affected them, and their whole life they don't acknowledge the fact that things that happened changed them, and they go on through their life meeting different people, and they hurt others or act a certain way without actually thinking about it. I think that people should think about their psychological health more often. Just, sometimes I do things a certain way, and then I realize why I do it, and it doesn't take that much time, but I change the way I act, because I realize that I acted that way before because this and that happened. It's just something that's subconscious. What trends in society of your country do you see? Well, the first, again, I'm gonna sound like a 50-year-old grandma, but the first trend that comes to mind is teens, kids, and sometimes adults preferring other cultures to their country and being really disrespectful. I've noticed a lot of Russian kids looking at culture and like songs and people from the USA, Europe, and they think it's so much better. And I'm not saying it's wrong. People can think whatever, they think. I love different cultures, and it's and you should keep an open mind, but disrespecting your own nation and just hating it, I feel like that's a bit too much. No one says you have to adore and love your country and your history, but at least don't be rude to your ancestors and to your history and just to the country in general. I don't think the second trend applies to Russia only, but I think it's something that happens all over the world. I think it's a bit hard to explain, but I'll try. So, people see a group of, a category of people they don't like, maybe social category or just fans of something they don't like, and they start hating the whole group. So, for example, if a person doesn't like this sports team, or if a person doesn't like this political view, they base their whole opinion of the person they meet by only one criteria. So, for example, I meet someone and I realize their political view is different, and I absolutely start ignoring the person. So I just feel like you can't do that. You can't base your whole opinion of the whole person judging on one thing they like or dislike. People can be really different, and I just think it's kind of ignorant and blind to do that. If you understood what I was trying to say. How do you feel about the fact that borders in various states of various states continue changing in the modern world through wars and revolutions. Are these methods justified in your opinion? I'm against war and violence, but I understand that it is inevitable. It's just a natural thing that happens, even though I don't think wars are going to be the same as, the First World War and any different wars that happened in the past, because, well, I think we all understand that weapons are really powerful, and if everyone started fighting, then the world would just collapse. So I don't think that will be a problem anymore. I hope not. But obviously there are information wars and different other types of wars that don't necessarily look normal. They aren't just combat and, people throwing bombs at each other. They're a bit different. But that's not what the question's about. So. And I don't think these methods are justified. Tell us about the people around you. How can they be characterized? I can categorize people that surround me by 4 groups. First is obviously family, people I live with, people I'm quarantined with. The second group is friends that are so close they can be considered family. I feel like often people use the word family just really they don't think about it in any other way. They just think like if you're related by blood, then it means you're family. I don't think that's always true, because family to me is just people I'm comfortable with, people that I love, and this group, the second group of friends, I would call them my family. So it's 2 or 3 people, but they're so close to me that, I could call them family. The third group is just friends, close friends that I talk to every other day. There's a big amount of them usually. It's not 2 or 3 people, it's like 20 people perhaps. Maybe more, maybe a bit less. Basically, I usually just socialize with these people, joke around, and I can spend time with them, and I don't have a deep connection usually with them, not as deep, and they could still be nice people. It's just I don't have a strong bond with them, not strong enough. And the fourth category is just strangers, just people I know, people I've heard of, friends of friends, and people that affect my life and just a bit. Yeah. Do you have the inner circle people? How is it formed? What kind of people get to your circle? Well, as I've said, my inner circle is family and close friends that are like family. These people, I can tell them anything. Well, yeah. And I can share my emotions and feelings, and I'll be comfortable with that, because that's not always the case. And I trust these people. I'm connected with them. I can't just say goodbye and not see them for the rest of my life. These are people who usually affect my life pretty significantly. Have you ever had real friends? Tell us about them. What kind of person could you call a real friend? Well, again, maybe I'm doing something wrong, but as I've said, yeah, I have real friends. I could probably say that one friend is the closest of them all. I've known her for 7 years, and I know first of all, I know she's a good friend, and she'll stay for a while, because she has known me before, teenagehood, so when you're still a child. And very often, when a child grows up and goes through teenagehood, he loses lots of friends because over teenagehood you become more of a person. You start having opinions and all that, and you start being someone more like. And she stuck around, so I know she's gonna stay for a while. She lives in Canada, but she's Russian, and we could technically not talk for a year, which, well, doesn't happen, but still. And then she flies over to Russia, and we bond and act like nothing happened. So I have that deep connection, and it does not go away. Even if I try to, I couldn't get rid of it. We just, very often, if you haven't seen a person for a long time, you have to adapt, you have to get used to them again. But with her, it's like everything clicks, and we just, the second we meet, we act like we used to 7 years ago, 3 years ago, whatever. A real friend to me, yeah, is someone who just wishes the best for me and who I wish the best for, and who I love unconditionally, and who loves me unconditionally. Yeah. Briefly tell us about your outlook and your personal philosophy. Where did it come from? How has it been formed? What has changed in it over the past 10 years? Well, 10 years ago, I was 7. I don't think I had a philosophy. Not that I remember. I could say that it has changed in the last 2 years. Because before, I mainly just had this outlook that, you know, you should be nice to everyone, you should do the best you can to help others. And that hasn't changed. Obviously, you have to be nice to others. But I realized that life is complicated and natural selection still works, even though we're not animals. And each person is born in this world alone and it dies alone, so everyone just kind of has to survive on their own. So if you meet someone along the way and you can help, sure, you will help, but a person also has to be able to survive on his own and develop mechanisms or reflexes that help him in this world, whatever it could be. In your opinion, what is the key to successful performance if it is a scientific report, a performance by the musician? Well, the audience in these two is really different. If you're presenting a scientific report, obviously you're going to present it to professors and to people who will have to process information from you. So I would try to make my information and my speech really organized, and so it isn't complicated to hear. Yeah, and if there's a presentation, I would make it visually just comfortable to see. I would speak professionally, I would just be really serious about it. And if it's a performance by the musician, it really depends on the musician, because different musicians have different fans. And I think it really depends, because if you're going to a classical concert, there is one style of performing. If you're going to a death metal concert, there's going to be another one. So it really depends on the audience and the fans. What skills or qualities have you been brought up by your parents? What are the most important skills or qualities necessary for children, in your opinion? Well, first of all, the first thing that comes to mind is I think I'm quite independent. So I'm not really scared of the world, and if I had to live alone or if I had to travel by my own, which I've already done, it's not going to be that scary because that's just how the world is. And I think it's a very good quality to have in this world, because you're going to have to lose the fear and just do things anyway. So why do it when you're 30 when you can just acknowledge it when you're 16? What else? Well, probably my father always tells me that since the very childhood, it traumatized me a tiny bit, but whenever I would draw something, he would tell me to redo it and to, for example, if I'm drawing a dog, he would say that I need to look at the skeleton of a dog, muscles and all that. And when you're 7, not the best advice, but it has taught me to, if I'm told to do work, or if I have to do work, to do it the best that I can. Not just acceptable, to do a very good job, because I think it's always a good experience. He's also taught me that, my parents generally taught me that almost any experience, apart from bad experiences, can help you in the future. So even if you want to draw in the future and life gives you a chance to learn guitar and you have free time, you should probably do it, because you never know what life will give you, and different skills just, develop different parts of the brain, and you never know. So, why not? Just experience as much as you can, even if you don't, at the moment, you don't think it's, you don't like where you're going, or if you don't necessarily want it. For example, if someone tells you to, I don't know, go on a camping trip for free, and you don't really want to, you want to stay at home, it's still an experience. I'd still go, because you never know what happens. You never know. It's going to change your view on something. What are the most important skills or qualities necessary for children? Depends on the children, of course, but I'd say independence. And the same qualities that have been brought up in me. Independence, the ability to work on yourself constantly and not just accept yourself as you are. Not just say, well, I'm lazy and, that's who I am. You don't have to be. You can be like whoever you want to be, so just work on yourself. Why not? And it's going to be probably for the better. If you were in an unfriendly group, what would your reaction be? Actions? What do you think may be the reason for this attitude towards you? Well, I'm generally a really friendly person, and I have a way of acting and just speaking for each person individually sometimes, if I understand the person. But if that was to happen, I would try and understand why this reaction was, and if I'd realize that I can't change the situation, I would just adapt and I would just not care, because if you can't change anything, then why bother? I think one of the reasons could be the fact that sometimes I'm straightforward, and I don't always tell people what they want to hear. If they're in a position where I can't help them, and where they need someone to, they need a shoulder to cry on, then of course I'm going to tell them what they want to hear. But if they're in a situation wherein this will affect them, then I'll probably say the truth, and I'll probably just be straightforward, because I don't like dishonesty, and for me even, it's easier to hear the truth and just work on myself, or, you know, see the situation more clear, than to live in an illusion. So, yeah. I don't think there could be any other reason to not like me. Maybe people could think I'm a bit... Some people don't like when a person acts differently with others because they think they are fake. I wouldn't say that, because I just have different personalities in me, and I could act naturally with one person, act naturally with the other. I'd still be myself. It's just that I would be the person the other person will be more comfortable around, or I'll be more interesting to them. So, yeah, people could think I'm fake or something. I don't know. How do you define if a person is close to you or not? In what cases do you stop communicating with a person you considered close? A person is close to me when they know about what's happening in my life emotionally, because sometimes no actions, nothing's happening, nothing's eventful, but I have something going on in my head, or I'm thinking about something, or I'm feeling something. And if the person knows this, and if I can tell them that information, I would consider them close. Because not everyone needs to hear. If I have just a friend who isn't close, I'm not going to tell them everything, because I see no point. So yeah. And a close person is someone I'm comfortable around, because I'm not comfortable emotionally around people that often. You really have to be special, and I have to get used to the person. In what cases do you stop communicating with the person? Well, from experience, it's often if a person changed in the way I don't like, or if a person doesn't respect me. If a person did something bad to me, I'm not one of those people that would, tell them it's okay and let them do it again and again. And I have respect for myself a tiny bit. I wouldn't say I'm self-centered, but if a person acts unrespectfully, then I don't think they deserve my time, because if I like a person as a friend or anything, I give them attention, I give them love, and a person that's disrespectful just doesn't deserve that. So, tell us about 1 or 3 famous or outstanding people you like. You can cite modern historical figures or fictional characters. Explain your choice. Do you have anything in common with these people? My top 3 would be Victor Tsoi, Jordan Peterson, and Lana Del Rey. 2 of these are artists, and they have quite different genres, and the other is a professor at the University of Toronto, but he's known as an influencer. I don't know how to explain. He's a public figure. So, Victor Tsoi, I listen to his music daily. I think he's in my one of my favorite artists. But apart from his music, just as a person, he really fascinates me, and it just happens to me sometimes when I look at a person and I just think that everything about them is just really nice and authentic, and that's the case here. Just his clothes, his way of speaking, his songs, his lyrics, his interviews, where he takes a few seconds to think before he says. Just everything around him just kind of just feels like a good person to me. I don't know if I have anything in common with him. He's a bit like well, again, to me, that's my perception, but to me, he's a bit like a character from a movie or something, because he's got a character. He's a really specific person, and I feel like sometimes I could be the same. Like, if you know me well, I do have a character, and I would say I'm not just every other person. I'm not very special, but, you know, I try to be an interesting person. And if you know me well enough, then you'd know what I'm talking about. Jordan Peterson, he's just one of those people I can listen to, and I just agree with everything he says. Or sometimes he says something, or I read his book, and you knew something he'd say, but he delivers it so well and so accurately. It just makes me happy, honestly. His thoughts are so logical and so, they just make sense. I don't know. He's a very smart man, and he's kind of like a father figure to many, I'm sure, because he always has the right things to say, and he has the perfect balance between being realistic and a bit harsh, and being nice, because sometimes people are too realistic and too harsh, and people are a bit gentle sometimes, and things affect them, so you can't be like that around people. You can't just tell them, you know, mean, harsh things. But you also can't be too nice, because people will be delusional, and you can't be too unrealistic again. You can't give people hopes when there's no hope. He has the perfect balance, I think. It's just a balance between, you know, saying the right things. And the third person I wanted to talk about is Lana Del Rey. I'm not that deeply connected with her, and just generally, I feel like I don't know her as well as a person, because she doesn't let people do that. She's not as open, but I listen to her music a lot, and mostly, well, obviously, I discovered through her music, and what I like about her is she is quite popular. She's a celebrity, but she doesn't use that position, and she's still really just honest to herself. She's modest, which is something you don't always get with celebrities, and she just does what she feels like she should do. She doesn't think about... I feel like she hasn't changed a lot with popularity. She's just really caring and nice, and she's just does what she needs to do, and writes poems if she wants to, writes songs if she wants to. If she doesn't want to, she doesn't. She's just a really dreamy, calm person that I feel like she has really good harmony with herself. So nothing really worries her. Nothing really knocks her off her feet. She's stable where she is. She knows what she needs, which I respect, because not all people can come to that. It's quite hard, and you can tell that she's gone through a lot of... her path wasn't short, because she, like every person, I think, no one is born with harmony. No one is born knowing truly what they need and what they want and what they should have done. But she's in that position now, and I respect her for that. And I don't know, just her music, it just is perfect to me. I just listen to it and I feel like it was made for me, which sounds really bad when I say it out loud, but it's just so nice. It's really calm and really poetic and really dreamy. I think I have... do you have anything in common? With Jordan Peterson, I feel like I have that balance too. Sometimes I tell people what needs to be told, but I also sometimes take the other road and just make sure they feel safe and good. They're not scared and they're in a good place. So yeah. And as for Lana Del Rey, I feel like lots of teenagers often don't really understand who they are and what they need, and I think that as Lana, I kind of do. More so, I understand my actions, just who I am. I have this harmony with myself, so. And my friends would say I'm a calm person. I'm not the emotional, loud type of person. I'm the nice, quiet, interesting person, I think, out of a company. If you were a mayor of your city, what would you do first in this position? What changes would you make to the city? Well, I would not be a mayor of my city in any case possible. No chance, because I would not get to that position. I would need to pay a lot of money for that. I don't think there's enough money in the world available for someone to agree to take me as a mayor of their city. But yeah, and I don't think I would do well in that position. I would ask the nation what they need. Give them what they need if it's not something outrageous, because sometimes people don't know what's good for them. That's what I've learned. Sometimes the people think they want one thing, but they don't think about what it's going to affect and all that. They just, it pops to their mind, and they're like, okay, I want this. I don't think they always know what they want, so I would give the people what is available and just kind of let the people settle down and just be happy, make life comfortable, and then, I don't know, I would do what I think is right. I don't know. I would probably, it's gonna sound racist, I don't want it to sound like that, but I would make the construction workers and just, what are they called, lower paid people, I would make them all citizens of Russia and not people from other countries, because I feel like you should respect your own country first, and if you're the mayor, you should, think about what your nation needs first. You're not going to think about what Canada needs if you're the mayor of Moscow. So, because there are a lot of people in Moscow that don't have a job, and they're Russian in their own country, they don't have a job, while other people come from other countries and steal that job, and I don't know, I feel like that's not really fair. I don't know, I would not be a mayor, so thank God I don't have to think about that again. Tell us about the country in which you would like to live. Explain your choice. What do you like or dislike in the country of your residence? To be honest, right now, I would continue living in Russia, in Moscow, because I just find it really comfortable. And there's a lot of pressure, I feel like, in this country. And there's that bit of natural selection. You can't just be a nobody and, everyone will respect you and everyone will be nice to you. It sounds like everyone here is mean. Sometimes that's the point. People can be mean here, but you need to become a somebody to be noticed. You need to be somebody, Maybe I'm really wrong about this, because I'm only 17. I'm not the smartest human alive. But I feel like, it's more interesting to live like that. When you have to develop, you have to, become You have to develop, you have to, use evolution. You have to see how things are and adapt. Because when there's no force, when there's no pressure, you don't really change because there's no motivation. You just stay who you are. And I don't know, I feel like throughout life, I could never just exist and not change. So I would probably still live here. Yeah. So I said what I liked about my country, basically. What I dislike, well, I feel like people do not change their points of view. People are really close-minded often in Russia. So if their grandpa told them something, told something to their dad, and their dad told their son, they don't second guess, or they don't think about their view. They often just, they're born with it and they don't think about it. So, if it was okay to beat a woman 100 years ago, apparently it's still now. So those type of things. People don't have an open mind, and they're rarely open to other cultures. I don't really like that. I like when people are a bit more open to life and just happy and love each other, but you can't, it's difficult, so. For each of these pictures, give detailed statements, thoughts. First picture, technically it just shows a woman, but you can see in her eyes that she's feeling something. I think she's depressed or sad, I don't know. I think the author probably wanted to show, this was probably painted at a time when portraits were really popular and everyone just looked pretty. And I think this author tried to show some soul in the picture. Picture number 2. I know this picture and I don't like it because, it's just my opinion, I don't think it's realistic. The composition is great, but I don't think, it's just, there's no dynamic. If there's a volcano erupting and death is after you, you're not going to stand in a position and gasp. You're going to quickly move. Things are going to be really quickly things are going to be changing. There's not going to be that much people in one place just doing random things and holding their hands in the air. That's, really unrealistic. But I think the author tried to show terror, but I just don't see it. Picture number 3. People after a hunt, obviously. Very popular picture here. I feel like, hunting isn't the easiest job, and I feel like these hunters had a hard day. They, spent their time hunting rabbits or ducks or whatever, and they were really concentrated, and now they get to lie down and just eat and talk, and they're in that state when they can relax. So I think they're having a great time, honestly. Just talking about something. Yeah. Alright, picture number 4. Also really unrealistic, and there's probably a metaphor there. And I could stake millions of metaphors for this picture. I guess the author probably wanted to show some kind of balance and just happiness. But honestly, I'm kind of scared for those two because there's a big chance they're gonna fall. And it's probably really cold up there, so. But I'm happy they found each other. Picture 5. Now there's dynamic in this picture. And you can really see the situation, the rocks just out of the water and the waves. I think the author wanted to show just the power probably of the sea, and in this case, the humans in the boat, they can't really control the situation. They can't stop the water. They can't, calm the ocean down. They just kind of death just is inevitable, or they'll get really lucky. So it's just kind of the power of nature, the power of life, or the, Picture 6. Picture number 6. This reminds me of a certain feeling when, you're going down an empty stairway, or you're in an empty hall where you closed the lights down and you're running to your bed when you're 5 because you're scared that demons are going to get you. I think that's a great explanation of a great visualization of this feeling. It's like something's going after you. It's not anything in particular. It's just this something going down, and you're running away from something. Logically, no one's there, nothing's gonna get you, but it's just still kind of scary. You still run. So yeah, that's what I see there. Picture 7. Picture 7, my first association when I looked at it is a tarot card. I don't know why. Kind of looks like a picture some culture would have. A representation of some kind of tree of learning. It really looks like the picture is drawn some kind of style of some culture, I don't know. It looks like the sun is setting down. I know it's probably not the sun, it's just some kind of light. There's probably a metaphor there, but I don't really like thinking about metaphors when I'm not sure. So I don't like open, what's it called? Whatever. Picture 8. I like this picture. Composition-wise, it's really interesting because as we see, there's most of the picture is black, but the light that falls on this guy is really well drawn, and I don't know what he's doing, but something's not right with this guy. I don't know what, but I feel like in this picture we can see the beginning of something bad. Something's going through his head that shouldn't be. Picture number 9. Well, picture number 9 is just a typical, I feel like, picture of people sitting down in the 19th century or something. And everyone has their own role, I feel like, in the room. Someone's writing, someone's looking, someone's, really different people, and they're all like characters. Well, they are characters in this scenario, but if this was a real situation, I feel like each person there plays a role. Each person just creates something in the room. Everyone's there for a reason. The guy with a scarf in his hand, he's doing something. I don't know. Picture 10. I mean, it's a bunch of crows. I know it's supposed to be a serious picture, I think, but it just makes me think of crows just getting together in town, being all mysterious, and if you look realistically, it would probably look really funny. You'd just see 4 crows looking at each other, thinking they're doing something. I feel like it's supposed to be gloomy and scary, but I can't take crows seriously. They're really funny creatures. So yeah, this is how I see, you know, people that think they're smarter than everyone else and they're mysterious and important, but actually, I don't know, they're not really doing much. They're just looking at each other. Picture 11. This picture reminds me of my family because we have 3 sisters and they're all really different on the picture. You can even, if you look at it long enough, I feel like you could start feeling what each girl's character is. Yeah. Again, I think it's an old picture. I don't know what people used to do all day, honestly. Just sat around and did something. I don't think they're doing anything useful, but... Picture 12. Again, there's probably a metaphor there, but I don't... We can see the sea, and then under the sea we can see the world. There's sort of just 2 worlds in one picture. It's an interesting illusion, I like it. But I don't think there's much meaning to it. It's a nice picture. It's just that some pictures want you to think about it for hours and just understand what the artist wanted to do, and here it's just a nice picture. I think. That's all. Picture 13. In this picture, I feel like it's probably because the artist made the light in the room cold and the window is really big, but I feel like I can feel the coldness and emptiness of the room. And the lady waiting, I feel like if you pressed resume on the picture and let it play, she would wait there for a few hours and then someone would come and the room would be filled with people. I feel like this is the moment when she's waiting for that. And the room is cold and calm. And the cloth on the table, you know, you can see it's not moving. Everything's really still. But maybe in a few hours that's going to change. People are going to come. And someone's going to turn on, you know, the light, and it's going to be just totally different. Picture 14. Picture 14. Picture 14 reminds me of some scene from a cartoon. You know. It seems like those giants are different truths of life, you know, or feelings, or things that are more powerful than a human being, because really a human being, compared to some things, is really just nothing. And I feel like you could see a tiny human being just trying to find his way, and different statues. One of them is throwing a rock. So yeah, I think you could say that maybe each statue is something that a person meets in his life, like fear, death, maybe love, even though they're too scary for that, but yeah. Just a tiny human trying to stay alive. Tell us about your own versions of your socionic type. What versions were given to you by other tests? I know my type already, so I've already gone through this. I'm not going to say anything. I think my type is quite obvious, even though it wasn't obvious to me at first, but I don't think it's hard to tell who I am. I don't know. Sorry if my thoughts were a bit illogical and all over the place, but I didn't want to write out all my thoughts. I just kind of went with it. So Thank you for the attention, and I hope no one's gonna be mad at me, and everyone's gonna, respectfully tell each other about their own theories and all that. I hope you have a good day and a good quarantine.